Hello.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to another episode of enLIGHTen with Div and Deb. And today, what's in your experience, Deb? What are you wanting to chat about?
Well, I've had a full morning working from home, and while I had actually my first coaching session of the morning. Sitting in the room, I heard a visitor arrive and say to my partner, "Oh, why is Deborah's car parked in the drive out the front?" And I didn't hear any more about that because I was focused on my coaching. Later, I checked my phone and there's a message from this person saying, in the future, don't be so lazy and consider other people. I had to park on the road. Of course, I've added the tone in, but that's how I heard it in my head. And I'm kind of thinking, it's my home, my car. I'm not allowed to park it where I want to. And so you had to park on the road. Yes. Can you not? This is it. No, hello, how do you do? Can you not be so lazy next time and be considerate of others? I had to park on the road, ...
I'm very curious to hear how you responded to that. Well, how do you think most people would respond to that? I anticipate most people would respond to that by some version of letting them know where to stick it. Like, it's my house. I can park wherever I want, you know.
Yes, that would be actually quite a polite retort. It is my house. Sorry if it inconveniences you. That was where it was convenient for me to park.
Yeah.
My reason being that is the place to park where it is not under any trees, and I was over the birds pooping on my car.
And
so
the reason, you could give the rationale as well. That's one way one could respond, is give the rationale. That's why I did this, is because of that. Yeah, you could do that. What other options do we have for responding? If it was, how might I respond? I'm considering, if that was me, if the roles were, if I had received that text, probably what I would do. I'm kind of embarrassed admitting this. I would be like,
come on, fess up. What's your initial response?
Well, my initial response would be like, -2 points for friending.
Yes.
That is my initial response. I would be like, -2 points for friending, because, like, what? Why would you send me a message like that? And I'll my rationale for wanting to respond in that way is it's a really high value of mine that we take responsibility for ourselves. So that would be something that I would, in that moment, be imposing on the other person. I would be imposing that value on the other person. -2 points for me.
So you did ask me when we had a little chat, like, oh, how's your day been before we started? And you were like, why would you? I thought you'd be more selective about who you would invite to your home. You would invite someone who would have that kind of behaviour to come to your home. And I said, I didn't invite them. They were working on some project with my partner, and they came to see my partner. So I hadn't extended the invitation, and yet they were at my home and had the boldness to comment on my choices in my home.
Yeah.
And my initial response, because I do know this person and I do see that that person, this is going to sound like a judgment, so I feel embarrassed, that person actually would more technically fall into the category of lazy, unproductive, time wasting relative to me, and their general way of operating in the world, one would say, is less considerate of others than me. So I had no trigger. It didn't trigger anything in me. I don't feel lazy.
You knew it was a projection. You just knew straight out it's a projection.
Yes.
So even though, like, even though I can tell that's a projection, like were the roles reversed, I'd be in the, I could tell it's a projection. I would still be kind of almost chastising myself for not being more selective with someone that is projecting on me, which, as I say this,
yes, I hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, as I say this, I'm kind of like, well, this is what our unconscious does when we're trying to work something out. You know, this is what it does when we're trying to work something out. So
yeah. So it's, that is still useful information for you because it's triggered something in you, something that you're trying to tease out about. Who do I let into my space and how do I expect them to be and what's the criteria that they need to make, and there's some kind of scoring thing going on. That's all about you.
Yeah.
Same for me. If there's some trigger for me, which exact same stimuli may challenge something else, stimulate something else in me. If it was, it probably might be in the flavour of not enoughness.
Okay.
Right?
Uh-huh.
And you and I know from the conversations that we have, and for the listeners, that yours has a theme around it. I find this is interesting. I didn't know we were going to do this in the conversation, but the exact same stimuli can activate two completely different states.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting.
So it can't be something about the nature of the trigger. You know, when I think of triggers, I think of the finger that presses the button. What's wired to the button? You can have a zillion things wired to a switch. Yeah, what's wired in gets activated, nothing to do with the finger pressing the switch, right? So that's just one thing to notice. I had no stir at all. I got a little smile on my face. Oh, how cute is that? I just think it's very cute that somebody would think that clearly this is outrageous, that one would go to another person's home and they wouldn't have organised their whole life around your convenience for your parking. Very curious what would be going on in your internal structure of your world that you would have that kind of expectation of the world. And then, are you curious about my reply? I did see it as a projection.
Yeah, I am curious.
I have a set thing that I do because you nailed it. You said when we project, the unconscious, the spirit, the soul is working to find some way to activate in the person the thing they need.
Yeah.
Here am I, parking my car somewhere that's going to be a useful trigger for this person. So I said, oops, I was a bit sarcastic at first. First of all, I sent a love heart. Then I sent, sorry, Mum, meaning like I felt a little bit like that was someone acting like a mother telling me, now you need to have, here's my advice to you like a mother would. So that's why I said, sorry, Mum. And then I said, I promise. Then I sent another love heart. And then this is the bit that's probably better modeling. It's great advice, ... Don't be lazy, ... Think of others. Thank you. And then they said, I love you. And love heart back. So I don't know what that person thinks of that. I probably could have gone without the first two, like, sorry, Mum, I promise I won't park my car where I shouldn't. And go, yes, you're right, that is great advice. And then that repeating that person's words back to them allows them to hear what their unconscious is wanting them to hear. Don't be like that. Don't be lazy and think of others. You know, the advice we give to others is what we're actually trying to hear and give to ourselves. So we don't have to get in the way of it.
Yeah, I was having this conversation with someone recently when I was saying I've been writing a lot recently, and I know that when I write, I'm like talking to myself, I'm coaching myself, I'm working something out in the process. That sense of I'm still teasing this thing out. There's something that's is being projected upon the page to be worked out, and I wonder, though, I am like that. Your response it's a certain level of maturity, right? You need to be composed emotionally and aware that it's not about me. How another person is like, it's got nothing to do with me. You can't respond in such a way when you're in trigger, because then there's the story that this has something to do with me. There's, we're only triggered if we think it's about us, if we're taking it personally on some level, right? Can you think of another instance where we might feel triggered if we weren't taking it, like if there wasn't some element of taking it personally?
I can't imagine that well, yeah, well, that would be the common expression. You're taking it to heart or you're taking it personally, but certainly you letting it in some way that the thing is, though, that it activates your own stuff.
Right, which is why you're thinking it's about you, because it activates your own stuff. It's because it's activating something that you're thinking this thing is about me. It's not. I mean, that thing is not, it's completely separate, and it's yet activating, so it is a tricky thing for us to truly comprehend a skillful and mature way. So I'm grateful for you illustrating how to gracefully offer someone their projection back in the moments that they are projecting, and in text as well, like is that was easier because there's kind of a direct accusation. Yeah.
When it's verbal, people will quite often say, I didn't say that. That's not what I said. It's actually what you said. When it's in text, it's there.
Yeah, I understand that. And I think that's interesting. Yeah, okay. That's why some people might prefer conversation.
So this kind of, for our listeners to unpack it a little bit, there's two parts to it. One is somebody's doing something, really, they're doing their work.
Yeah.
All of the time. All of us are, projecting our own reality and experience out into the world. It's always about them. And we can catch those moments where there's an accusation and know this is some advice that their system is wanting them to hear. How can I let them hear it without being a smart ass? Right? So, there is that principle of spot it, you got it. Well, look, we know this is just the nature of our psychology. And if our listeners can get this and accept you are projecting all of the time, it's the only way the human psyche can work. And is always looking for ways to show you information. When you project, there's a certain level of not readiness to hear it. Like the system's already trying to let you know, and you're not able and not willing to hear it. And that's why you project it out there. So if I'm the one out here that's received it and I go, how is this true of you? Spot it, you've got it. It's going to meet with resistance, because the projection indicates that there's something in the system that has some resistance to hearing it. So if I can be tactful in the way of presenting it back to them, it can allow them to hear it in a way that doesn't have resistance. And I have found just saying, that is good advice. I can agree with that. It is good for us not to be lazy. Do not be lazy. And think of others. These are eternal truths. Thank you. That's great advice. When it's kind of outside us and the advice is not pointed at us, we seem more able to kind of pick it up. So that's one thing, the tactfulness in mirroring it back to the person.
It feels like it really only becomes an issue if we do, on any level, take it personally. On any level, if we just, as a fact, all humans are projecting all of the time. We're all trying to work ourselves out. If on some level we take it personally.
Yes, that's right.
Like, how could this person project on me?
How could this person think this of me? How dare they? So yes, that's right. And this is a way of recognizing and just accepting it as a truth and a fact. I'm doing it all the time. You're doing it all the time. They're doing it all the time. It's nothing to do with me. I can choose, though, to be supportive of the process.
Yeah.
Or kind of support them in their resistance to the process.
Yeah.
By arguing back and me being in a state of resisting, right?
Yeah.
The other thing is that it may or may not trigger something in me.
And so
that's
what if it does?
Two pieces to separate out.
Yeah. So if it does trigger something in you, what is the response? Like, what's a skillful response in that moment, would you say? Like, if you did feel some stir in you, how might you respond? For me, I just wouldn't respond until the stir had dissipated. That would be my strategy, because there'd be sufficient awareness to know whatever I responded in the stir wouldn't be wise. So I would just wait to respond until the stir is dissipated.
Yeah. So if our listener has been following, they'll know that you will quite often see that my unconscious has revealed the answer in my hand gestures. And so what I do is separate out those two components. This is the bit that belongs to them. I can reflect that. This is my bit to take out of the space and hold here for me to do something with. That's my responsibility. They don't need to be dragged into that. I don't need to make this whole space messy by bringing that in.
And what if the agreement between you and this person is that you'll bring your messiness into the space? Do you have any such spaces where there's a sense of, that's what I'm wondering, because and I ask that because when we keep our messiness to ourselves, there's some connection that I see made in the world between messiness and vulnerability. I don't necessarily agree with it, but I see it made in the world. Like, when someone brings their messiness, then they're being vulnerable.
Oh, I see.
Do you understand? Rather than, this is my messiness, I'll attend to my messiness, and I will bring myself in fit form. And so that's the thing.
Could I say something about that? The person or persons who, it sounds like someone in your life or someone's in your life are saying, I need you to be more this way. You are committed to being responsible for yourself and becoming more masterful and owning your own mess and cleaning it up there and not projecting it onto others. And they're saying, I see that as a sign of you being unwilling to be vulnerable.
Yeah, and that's a projection. And of course, yes, I'm aware of that.
And so here again is a perfect time to help explore the concept with the person very cleanly, because their system is trying to work out vulnerability.
And intimacy.
And intimacy.
Right.
And so you ask the question, if I was to have an agreement with someone that I would bring my messiness into the space and kind of share the ownership and responsibility of that together out there in the space, I would say clean up your agreement with someone.
Yeah.
Because being an adult and being mature is taking 100% responsibility for you, your emotions, your thoughts, how you're going to act upon them. And it is not healthy for us to be, we do it, no judgment. That is us being messy, and it will happen. It is not the path to mastery or maturity.
Yeah.
I do it, yes. I'll confess one. Just last night, went to bed, noticed that there was a lamp on, got out of bed to turn that lamp off and kicked my toe on the way back in, because now, and I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm having to stumble my way in the dark to find my way back to the bed. And there was an implied blame in that you could have turned the light on, the bed light on, knowing that I was going out to turn off the only light in the house. There was an implication of me like, you're partly responsible for me just having kicked my toe. We do these things.
Or is it really somebody else that you're blaming when you tut and go,
Sometimes. Well, who was I really annoyed at? When I got out of bed, I had this split second thought, the lamp on that side of the bed, the controller of the lamp has just turned out the light. That's why we noticed that one. If I don't say turn on the lamp, I'm going to be coming back in the dark. It was that fast, yeah. And I didn't. Yes, the truth is the tut was for me, that I didn't hear that, request it.
Express the thing that
expressed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, rather than me go, well, I'm an idiot, I go, you could have turned the light on. Of course, it's logical that if I turn the only light off, I'm going to be in the dark coming back to bed. He's just said nicely, can you please not do that? Blame me for when you hurt yourself. I go, well, I'm not blaming you. I just hurt my toe. I kicked my toe. And you get grumpy like this when your toe hurts. Again, me not taking full responsibility. Okay. There's a moment of immaturity, a moment I can clean up some more. And beautifully that I did that when I'm right in the middle of exploring, what does it really mean to be an adult? What does it really mean to be mature? It is about taking responsibility, 100% responsibility, 0 blame. You get the ratio like this, not, well, you can take a little portion. No. All of my choices to now have brought me here in life. This is my life and mine to respond to. Whether I feel I've created that out there or not, what I can know for sure is my choices have brought me here. this is my life. Let me have 100% responsibility and just bring my attention to that. Don't do it 100% of the time, but the commitment to do it is 100%.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
It's a bit embarrassing confessing confessing that, I still, our ego wants to do it all the time. The ego wants to never be wrong.
Yeah, and that is a mark of maturity. It is a mark of being able to say, hey, in this instance, that was me, that kind of like fessing up to our mess ups. That's a mark of maturity, because kids don't do that. Like, they lie. They lie to protect themselves and save face. Maturity is what enables us to say, yeah, you're right. I that was not very mature of me in that moment. And
Not cool.
yeah, and so I admire that. I appreciate that, and that is really great advice. Clean up our agreements. That is, if I have an agreement with someone where they're wanting less than 100% responsibility for themselves and 100% me taking 100% responsibility for myself, then that it is wise to clean up that agreement, because only some level of codependency will emerge from that. Yeah. Nice. Good. We'll end it there. Good episode.
Have a great day. Love you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in again.